too.
Yeah, but his legs are so tired.
I know. But he was crawling circles around me. And before I left, it was just me and Frank. Everybody else had gone to bed. And because we used to stay up super late, just kind of chat and yeah. And he made me promise. He's like, hey man, you're getting a little bit out of control. Like, I need you to promise me when you get back home that you'll get yourself under control and you will make a change. And I kept the promise.
Don't cry, because you made me cry.
So.
Hey, you guys. What is this? Version number 2? Video number 2?
Number 2.
Podcast
number 2.
What are these called?
They're called podcasts.
Hey guys, podcast number 2. We are going to talk about Nick today. Introducing him and his background and how he started, how he got into fitness, nutrition, kind of where he is now, how he stays motivated, stays on track, and the ups and downs and how that works for him. So
We have our dog here, so if it looks like I'm playing with things outside of the camera, it is our dog.
He's a saber.
Who just wants to be very close to us.
He's a saber. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed getting to know a little bit about me. After watching it back, I realized there were a couple stories I never finished. One of them was about the 1.5-mile run, and it actually came up in a memory on Facebook, like right after we did it, that I hadn't been training for it for my previous job, and thanks to CrossFit, ran my fastest time ever. So if you guys were like hanging on every word that I was saying and you wanted to know that. So with that being said, tell us about you, babe. I got you, babe.
What? Where do you want me to start?
Really? I mean, how did you get into, did you play sports? How did you get into fitness? How did you grow up? Like,
So yeah, I always played sports. I played every sport possible that I could. I started out playing baseball when I was 3, when we lived in Spain, and then continued playing baseball. Played a couple seasons of basketball when I was little.
were you as good at it as me?
Maybe.
I mean, I was great.
I remember one specific incident. It wasn't great. It was highly likely that it was just a lot of luck, because I was probably Malachi's age, so 9 or 10 maybe. And time was running out, and I threw it from like half court and made it.
Yeah.
Only basketball memory I really have, honestly.
I mean, that's better than me kicking the ball down the course. That's fine.
But yeah, played basketball for a couple seasons. I did kickboxing for a bit, and like Cub Scouts and stuff like that. And then my mom made me choose. Basically, it was too expensive for us to do all of it, and too time consuming to be able to do all of it. So she made me choose, and I chose baseball. And I played baseball for 15 years after my total time playing baseball. But then I did all sorts of stuff, freestyle rollerblading, skateboarding, longboarding, BMX, all those sorts of things, along with playing sports. So
You played football
did
too,
all the
right?
stuff. I played 2 games.
For a brief stint?
Yeah, I did. I played 2 games of football. I was always kind of a tough kid growing up, but I didn't like hitting people, and they had me on defense, and so I did not enjoy that. They had me on defensive line because I was always bigger. And growing up watching football, my dad was a Steelers fan, and the bus was always the dude. And so I wanted to be like the bus. I wanted to be a running back or a halfback or whatever he was. And I could always take the hits. I was always tough enough to be able to do that, but I never got the chance to do it. And so I had a couple practices. I played 1 game, not the starting lineman, earned my starting lineman, started my 2nd game, went to one more practice after that, and didn't want to do that, so I quit. It's the only sport I ever quit, like partially through, and didn't see it to the end. So
it's Malachi is playing football now, and it's fun.
fun.
We'll leave it at that.
Fun. Yeah.
Well, I know you've done a lot of stuff, jiu-jitsu and
Yeah.
BMX riding and
Muay Thai, jiu-jitsu, MMA, some, like I said, kickboxing when I was little, BMX riding. I did that for lots of years, probably 4 or 5 years, very consistently.
How'd you get into it all?
I was always athletic.
Yeah, but did you have like someone in your family that you followed after, someone that played sports, that did all of that?
My dad talked about playing football when he was younger. So I kind of took after that a little bit when I tried to play football. But baseball I just really enjoyed. I don't know if anybody in my family played baseball. I know my mom and dad played like a co-ed slow pitch softball league when I was real little, but I was already playing baseball at that point. I don't think that really had any sort of an effect on whether I wanted to play sports or not. So no, I just kind of naturally gravitated toward that. And then BMX, actually the guy that used to live across the street from me growing up, Frank, I've told you about him a little bit. He always talked about how he rode BMX back in the 80s when he was growing up. And so we actually built, he used to do all sorts of stuff, woodworking and like metalwork and like painting and stuff like that in his garage, and kind of fabricating stuff. And so we actually found an old piece of junk frame, and he completely stripped it all down, repainted it, all that sort of stuff, when I was probably 12 or 13. And so that was my first BMX bike, and that's kind of where I started. And we used to have, I don't know if they still make them, but there's like plastic ramps that you could buy that were like the perfect angle. But we used to put them in the yard, and we would just haul ass down the street and hit that ramp, and we would set up, because Frank was a car guy. Mm-hmm. And so he always had like tires and stuff like that in his house, at his house where he was working on his like 1993 or 96 Honda Prelude or whatever it was. And so we would stack those up and see who could jump over the highest and the tallest. And so that was kind of the beginning of BMX. You know, the couple of us had always skateboarded and stuff just out in the street, but that's when I really got into the extreme sports. I was okay at skateboarding, but BMX is kind of where I really enjoyed it and got passionate and rode for some years. Yeah.
Didn't you ride your bike off of your roof into the pool?
Oh yeah. No, not into the pool.
Oh, okay.
Off of the roof onto the into the yard. Yeah.
He wants to do all these crazy extreme stuff, and I'm just like, I don't think we're of the same cloth.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of an adrenaline junkie. I enjoy all the things. You know, fast cars.
I mean, I do too. I just have like a limit.
I don't. Yeah, I did parkour for a while. So, like I said, I've always been athletic. So.
But you never. Well, what? So, okay, sports, jiu-jitsu, BMX, all of that, athletic movements. But what about fitness? Like, so obviously, I grew up just being weird and working out with playing sports. Did you do any of that?
Not really. I never enjoyed fitness until I probably hit high school, and I was trying to play baseball for school, and they had a after-school conditioning, sports conditioning and whatnot, but it was all your typical machines and stuff. So it was like, I mean, I remember being in 9th grade, and like leg pressing 720 pounds on the leg press. But I had already been doing like BMX and stuff, so I already knew I had really strong legs and stuff. So I kind of started there. In my senior year, I remember riding my bike from my house. I would ride to the rec center, lift, because I had a really weird schedule. My senior year, I didn't have a first block and I didn't have a last block, so I didn't have to be to school until like 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. So I would leave my house early, go to the rec center, do whatever BS workout I was doing at the time, and then I would ride to school, which was, I don't know, probably half a mile from the rec center. Lock up my bike, and then I would go from there to whatever I was going to do.
What about nutrition?
No, there was no nutrition. I grew up on.
More about fitness, food in your mouth.
I absolutely was. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I couldn't resist.
You know, back then, like there was no real knowledge about nutrition at all. So I think my mom and dad, well, my mom, because my mom made all the food, I think she did the best that she could. But there was no, like, even in school for me, like I grew up thinking about or learning about nutrition being like the food pyramid stuff. So like we grew up on Pop-Tarts and cereal for breakfast, Eggo waffles, and then toaster strudels. And then, like, a staple at my house was, like, beef stroganoff hamburger helper, which I cannot eat or even think about eating anymore. But that was the staple of food, like, in my house. Okay. There was no semblance of, like, healthy stuff. Like, my mom was always trying to do some weird concoction of whatever sort of stuff she was trying to make. She was always trying to be Rachel Ray or something. But yeah, there was none of that. No healthy options at all.
So was high school it for baseball? You were done after that?
Yeah. I kept riding BMX and stuff, but high school, probably my junior year, maybe my senior year, maybe. I stopped playing baseball just because everything got so political. It was always about being, the coach's son's best friend and stuff. So I stopped really getting a chance to play. I remember one incident, even I was playing AAU ball, and my mom lost her ish on the coach because the coach pulled me mid inning. I was catching, and he had heard that I was going to another team the next season, and so he pulled me out of the game because of the next season. This was like game 2 or 3 of the season, and he was like, "You're done," and like pulled me out of the game. My mom lost her ish over it, and I was like, after that, it just became very apparent to me that that's kind of how ball is, especially once you get up to that level. So unless you're really good, which I was okay. I mean, I made all-stars, pretty much every year that I played baseball, but I was not necessarily in the right cliques and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it is what it is. Me, yeah.
Can't imagine.
I know. I was not always like this though. Like now I'm very blunt and I don't care necessarily about fitting in. But back then, like I wanted to be in the cool kids and
Don't we all? So then, after high school, like, lead me where you went next.
I kept riding BMX and stuff. I didn't go to college, so I just worked, which didn't leave a lot of room for, physical activities. So I started gradually getting bigger and bigger. Yeah, I mean, again, not knowing anything about nutrition at that point. This was what, 2007 to 10. 2007 to 10, somewhere in there. Like I just, you know, just kept eating. I worked out, but not really knowing what to do. It definitely didn't have any sort of a base like I do now.
Yeah.
And just kept eating the way I had always eating, not really knowing about calories in, calories out. I mean, it's crazy. Even like my big dad being diabetic, like when he was alive, he ate pizza probably once a week at least.
Yeah.
Breaded boneless wings was a staple in the house, like when my nana was making food, like fries, like even with him being diabetic, that was the normal.
Yeah.
And so like I grew up all about that, and my genetics aren't like yours, and my body doesn't like it. So, you know.
Well, Big Dad is his grandfather for you guys.
Yeah, my grandfather, sorry.
Well, he worked for, like, it's not Little Debbie, but...
So he owned a cookie route for Famous Amos Cookies. Yeah, Famous Amos Cookies and Murray Cookies. And so because of that, I always had Famous Amos cookies, iced oatmeal cookies and stuff always available. But then because he ran a route, he also went to like industry cookouts and all that sort of stuff. So we knew all of the local Little Debbie people and all that sort of stuff. So they would kind of trade, like, hey, I'll give you a case of whatever you want. And, you know, so I always had access to all that stuff. Like I ate so many cases of Star Crunch.
I forgot about those.
So many cases of Star Crunch. Yeah, it's ridiculous.
So what was the turning point, or was there a turning point? There had to have been a turning point because you're not.
I actually went out to visit Frank before he passed away. Malachi was like 10 months old, and I was about 270 pounds, probably, maybe more. I didn't weigh myself. I had already started my journey a little bit and was, I think, on my way back down when I finally weighed myself at 270. But I may have been bigger. But I went out to visit him, and the night I was leaving, or the night before we left, we were all hanging out. And Malachi the whole time was just crawling circles around me. He had started walking on that trip and couldn't walk. And then by the time we were leaving, he was running down the driveway. So like he learned everything, you know, and he was gone. And he's still super busy all the time now too.
But his legs are so tired.
I know. But he was crawling circles around me. And before I left, it was just me and Frank. Everybody else had gone to bed. And because we used to stay up super late and just kind of chat. And yeah, and he made me promise. He's like, hey man, you're getting a little bit out of control. Like, I need you to promise me when you get back home that you'll get yourself under control and you will make a change. And I kept the promise.
Don't cry because you made me cry.
So, yeah.
So what changes did you make when you got home?
At that point, I didn't make a whole bunch. I didn't really know what to do, but that's what started the journey on understanding nutrition. And then, so I'd been already counting macros and stuff like that, or I knew how to count macros, rather. And so I would start to count macros, and then I would cut calories and all that sort of stuff. I never really got any results. And then I was friends with Vincent, which you've had a couple conversations with. Mm-hmm. And Vincent got me in touch with a guy who was getting into ketones, like a MLM. I forget what it's called now, but it was exogenous ketones. It was a drink or a powder you would put in your drinks. It would put you within like 30 minutes into ketosis. And so I hadn't really done a whole lot of research at that point. But he got me in touch with him, and Vincent had gotten into it too, and they had sent me some samples, and so I tried it. And I was like, well, okay, so isn't keto like a diet? Like, isn't it a nutrition? I was like, well, if it's a nutrition, if this powder can get me there, then I should be able to do it with a diet. And so I really started researching keto at that point. And I definitely did not do it healthy and don't recommend how I did it. But I basically went from 270 when I started weighing myself down to like 180 within like 4 months. And I did it basically eating junior bacon cheeseburgers from Wendy's with no bun, dipping it in mayonnaise and like relish, and 7-Eleven hot dogs also with no bun. Yeah. In mustard and relish. And I would basically buy 3 or 4 hot dogs of the big, like, quarter-pound hot dogs or whatever at 7-Eleven. And that's basically how I lost most of my weight. Then I would go home and I would cook. But when I was on the go, like for work, I was working precision, 12-hour days, that's what I would eat. Was fasting. I'd fast till like noon, and then I would stop at like Wendy's or whatever, and I'd get them because they were like $1 or $1.30 or something. So I'd get like 6 or 7 of them. I was spending less than $10. I'd eat them. Cool. I noticed I wasn't getting lethargic or anything, and just started shedding weight. So again, don't recommend it. I was probably this close to a heart attack. But that's how I lost majority of my weight at that point. And then that and Quest bars. Yes. And so after I got to that point, just losing the weight, there was no muscle mass or anything like that. And so that's when I really got into kind of the science of it. Before it was just like, okay, let me just be at the macros that I needed for keto because I didn't really care. And then it was like, then it was like, okay, now let me start actually getting some quality protein and all that sort of stuff. So then I started, instead of going to Wendy's and stuff like that, I would fast most of the day. And then when I was going home, I would go to like Harris Teeter and I would buy whatever steak or meat or whatever like that was on sale that was like going out of date because I was just going home to cook it immediately. Yeah. And so I kind of did that.
That's how he was eating when we met. There was no meal plans. It wasn't like once a week grocery shopping. It was like
every day.
Every day.
Every day I would stop at Harris Teeter or Walmart or something on the way. Usually Harris Teeter because they have a section of the reduced meat. And I would buy a pound or 2 of whatever steak, whatever cut of steak. I didn't know at the time different cuts. So I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna eat steak. Doesn't matter what kind of cut it is. Steak is steak. I didn't know. Now I do. A steak's not a steak. Yes. But
true.
but yeah. Yeah.
So then how'd you get into CrossFit?
CrossFit, I didn't know I'd heard the name CrossFit. And I had done a couple workouts. I remember when I was 18 or 19 and I was doing MMA, there was a guy, this was 2007, 2008 probably, so this is all brand new. This guy had just gotten his level 1, was one of the like conditioning coaches or whatever at the MMA gym that I was at. And I remember doing wall balls and burpees off the mats on the side of the building, and not really knowing what the hell was going on, but knowing that I couldn't breathe. And it was like 7 minutes, and all it was wall balls and burpees. And so this was...
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, yeah. So that was in 2007, 2008, and then fast forward to starting to get my nutrition stuff under control. I'm like, well, I want to have fun training again, and so then I started kind of researching it a little bit, and that is when Rich Froning was winning. It was either his third or his fourth individual title, and so I was like, I want to do that. So I remember seeing them do muscle ups and stuff like that, and I couldn't do pull ups, but I remember wanting to be able to do muscle ups because I was like, that looks so cool. Like I want to be able to do that, and so I found a gym, and there was when I was doing MMA, they did some CrossFit at that MMA gym, but then I found CFO, and that's actually where I met Rhiannon.
Yeah.
And so I started there, and I went. I don't even remember what I was doing for work at that point, but I remember thinking $90 was so expensive for a gym membership. And then they raised their prices when I was there too, and it went from 90 to 95, and I was like, who the hell do they think they are? How could they possibly raise prices? Yeah. You don't know what you don't know. But I remember like I was there, I don't know, I was there for pretty good amount, probably a year or so before, and then they closed down. So I was kind of without a gym. And then went from there. This was before I got big. I was already doing CrossFit off and on before I got big. But then when I was big, I was doing Filipino Kali and like stick fighting.
Okay.
It's a martial art. It's supposed to translate into like being able to use knives and swords and stuff like that, defense and all this sort of stuff. And but I was doing CrossFit at an MMA gym. It was Pride Training Center, and so they had that's where I met Roman.
Okay.
He was the coach there. It was right after I met him right after he had his big accident and had to have his leg and all that stuff reconstructed. Because he still had the full brace all the way up to his thigh and was walking on crutches or like a walker or whatever.
Right.
But yeah. And so yeah, I was doing that, and that's when I started Kali and all that stuff, and so it kind of went from there.
When did you start at Krypton?
I only went to Krypton for maybe 6 months or so. Wasn't at Krypton a lot. I went CFO, and then I went to Pride Training Center, and then I went to Oceana.
Okay.
I was at Oceana for a bit, and then.
I'm not sure I knew you went to Oceana.
Yeah, I went to Oceana. That's where I met Sarah and Kat.
Okay.
Met them. I wasn't not super close with them or anything like that, but obviously the CrossFit world's pretty small. But yeah, I went to Oceana for a bit. That's where I met Eric, Montessorio.
Mm-hmm.
They were all kind of right there. So I met all of them. I think I might have met David Garrett there too, maybe. Anyways, but was there for a bit, and then went from there. That's when that was 2017. That's when my big dad died, and so when I went from living out there in Virginia Beach to living at our house now, taking care of my big dad and everything and all of that stuff, then I shifted to Krypton. So I was only there from I don't know, late 2017 until we met.
Until after we met.
Yeah. And then I went to Cafe.
So, how did your big dad die?
It was a pretty rare. No, he was diabetic, but he died from cancer. Okay. It was a pretty rare, aggressive form of thyroid cancer. Mm-hmm. And we actually tried to switch him more to keto before he died, because there's a lot of research about the feeding system of cancer being more sugar based, and so when you cut out the sugar and carbs and stuff, it starves the cancer and can actually cure cancer in some cases, depending on what type of cancer and all that sort of stuff. But there is some science to back that up. And so we tried to switch him over to keto and stuff like that, but he was very particular about how he ate and what he ate and all that, and he's a little stubborn. But
imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know where I got it from.
Well, why don't you tell the fine folk how we met?
We met at a CrossFit competition. It was the Festivus Games. I think it was my first competition, and I took it very seriously because I thought it was like the games.
Just so you guys know, the Festivus Games, literally their motto is Festivus for the rest of us, like AKA not RX Games athletes.
I did not know that.
It's a competition for the rest of us.
I did not know that. I was thinking it was going to be something like, I don't know, a way to get to like regionals or something like that, because I'm special.
He has big dreams.
I did have big dreams in that respect. Yeah. I still have big dreams, not just that's not my goal anymore. So yeah, I signed up for Festivus, and all of the workouts, with the exception of maybe, I don't know, one or two, I think were announced. And so like I was so serious about, like, I did all the workouts multiple times. Like
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Like I wanted to test out to kind of see where I was. I did the thruster workout. It was like a mathlon or something like that. So basically you got to choose what weight you wanted to use, but it was the most weight accumulated over the workout with thrusters.
Right.
And so I tried it with like 135. I was like, oh, no big deal, 130. I did like 6 thrusters, and I was like, I can't do this. And so I ended up in the competition. I was way smarter about it, and that workout still cost me first place. But so I signed up for Festivus Games, and she was the head judge.
Do you remember the first time you met me?
I don't. You do, though.
I do.
You do. It was when I was drinking like 6 bangs a day.
Oh my gosh. I'm surprised you didn't die from that. Good gracious.
Fair enough. And I'll let you tell that part, because I was so focused on the competition that I walked in to. I remember you, just I don't remember that part. And so I walked in to sign in. Go ahead.
And I was being the head judge, and I was actually like the head coach at this gym that the competition was at. And he walked in carrying it, and I was like, where's mine? Because of course I had to be there early, and caffeine and all the fun stuff. And somehow we had been friends and following each other on social media, because like you said, the CrossFit world is very small, but especially in Hampton Roads, there are so many competitions and things that the different gyms here put on, that even if you don't know somebody, like haven't met them in person, you know them, if that makes sense. Like, you know who they are, you've been friends, you've like followed each other, and for whatever reason, that's how we knew each other. Because then throughout the day, I'll let you tell this part, sir.
So she's obviously very cute. And so
I guess I'm 5.
So I thought she was very attractive from the get-go. And
even
then
if he doesn't remember.
And then there was a workout in the competition that had wall walks. And I had already kind of talked to her whenever I could throughout the day. Didn't really think much of it. And so she was doing wall walks, and as I was watching it, she's very blessed in all the right places. And so it caught my attention. And from there, I kept competing. Again, I tried to talk to her whenever I could. And so left that day, I guess, like a coward, and I didn't talk to her when she thought I was going to.
He was literally like the last person at the gym. So I was like, everyone else everyone else was packed up and gone, and I was like, oh, he's actually gonna like ask me out. And then, of course, I had been going through a lot at that point where it was just kind of like, I'm over dating. I don't want to date anybody. So like to have an interest in somebody was, yeah. So then he left without saying a word to me. And I was just like, all right, well, I guess that was just a fun, flirty day. And that's it.
Well, to be fair, I was also very broken at that point. And I also never, I mean, confidence-wise, like I didn't think I had a chance. And
even though I flared him all day.
You did.
He doesn't tell me. I don't know what that means. Yeah. But I apparently did it.
It's for me to know, okay? When she does it, it's special for me.
Well, maybe I would do it more often if I knew what it was.
No, because it's not the same. I don't want you to do it for me. I want you to do it and then me to enjoy it.
That makes total sense.
It does.
So then what? What happened then?
And then I slid into your DMs a couple days later.
Literally the next day.
Was this the next day?
Yes, because I posted a story with Gizmo, my pug at the time. I think that he was my spirit animal or something like that, because we, of course, were running errands, and he was my road dog. He went everywhere with me. And I think Nick said something along the lines of...
That's about how I feel today, too.
Yeah. And the rest, as they say, is history.
We had an exchange on the thread, a couple comments, and then from there I went to the direct message, and went from there. Hey, when you know, you know.
So then, do we want to continue down that path, or your fitness journey?
You tell me.
You tell me. Well, because we pretty much, our first date was Barnes & Noble.
Yeah. I was on a very big growth kick.
And I was on a financial fast.
Yeah. To
stop spending money.
Yeah. I was just trying to better myself and get myself out of, I've always had big ambition, and so I want to do the things and get better and grow and get bigger and make a bigger difference. And so I was looking for a book. And so our first date was at Barnes & Noble, and then
I was seeing if the book you bought was back there.
Probably. It's probably this one right here.
Yeah.
Gary V.
I think so.
Gary V. crushing it, I think.
There you go.
Yeah, so...
There's our first date book.
Yeah, first date book. And so literally went from Barnes & Noble, just went back to your apartment and hung out in your living room and on a futon thingy, and
for like midnight.
Yeah, talked for a long time.
And I had to be up at like 4:30 the next day.
It was awesome. And then,
there's no way I could do that now.
Yeah, all right. And then from there, it just kept going. We never stopped.
No. I was like, I think the Festivus Games was like April 20th or 21st, something like that, 2018. Like that. I think on April 30th, I was basically like, look, like, here's my stuff. I have this going on. Do you want to date?
You told me your stuff
pretty much,
first day.
And it was just like, here,
that first
take
night,
it or leave it.
It was like, hey, we're both broken.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah. And April 30th, I was like, if you're dating other people, like, I'm not interested. I didn't want to play the games.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you want to be exclusive, I'm good. If not, bah. And here we are.
Yeah.
7 years later. I know.
6. Well, 6. It's 2024.
I know. Don't we? I don't know.
I got married 2018. It's 2024. So we're coming up on 6 years.
We met in April, married in December, same year. We do things fast. It's fine.
Yeah.
That's good. So then, obviously, like, my journey was a lot with your journey, keto, carnivore. A lot of that is very paralleled since we met. But I know there's been some ups and downs since then, too.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Addiction runs deep in my family. everybody's smoked cigarettes. My grandmother has COPD from it now. My dad battles, his alcohol addiction. My mom smoked until the day she died, with very short periods where she wouldn't smoke or whatever. And so my addiction is food, and so it's a struggle. Always been a struggle for me. Obviously, growing up the way that I did, and all of that. I mean, all of that is very near and dear to my heart, and I'm an emotional eater too. So when when my mom died, I kind of ate myself, and just tried to bury everything until you told me it came exploding out. But then it took me taking my food addiction as an addiction, to kind of get it under control, because I would eat good for a bit, and then we'd go to Thanksgiving dinner, or we'd go to a party or whatever, and I'd be like, oh, it's just a party, and well, I'll have the cake or whatever, we'll go get Mexican, and then life happens, and 3 or 4 days get super busy, and that all kind of happened right after my mom. Obviously, very grateful for our community around us. I mean, we didn't have to make food for 2 weeks probably after my mom died, and but all of that food was not really in accordance to kind of the way that I normally eat. And although I was very thankful, so I ate it, and I didn't really feel like making food or anything. So, but that just kind of kept going. I was like, okay, well, I don't feel like cooking, so we'll get Mexican, or we'll get wings, or we'll go get sushi, or whatever it was, Red Robin, whatever it is. And so I ended up putting on 40 pounds. 45 pounds, something like that, I think, after my mom died.
Yeah.
So I was down to 180 at one point. I naturally walk around, somewhere 190 to 200, and I got up to about 235, 240, I think. So depending on kind of how you measure how I gained the weight,
right. That's, I think, the hardest part is trying to take all of what we've learned and trying to teach like our parents, right?
Yeah, we're not certified, so we don't know nothing.
My dad's the same way. He's very stubborn and is set in his ways and what he eats. Thankfully, my mom has taken control of hers.
Yes, she has.
But your mom and Nana really didn't.
No.
Mom had diabetes and COPD.
Mom had diabetes and COPD and asthma and sleep apnea and narcolepsy and all the things, and was on all these different medicines that she never took consistently, and then also didn't finish when she was sick. Like, she wouldn't finish the antibiotics and all this. We found so many medicines that were partial bottles of whatever she was taking, and it was just very, very inconsistent. And no, she wouldn't listen.
Well, what keeps you motivated now?
Not dying.
Oh, you made me cry again.
It's true. I am very, very security minded, and so for me, it's about being prepared, trying to be prepared in everything. Financially, in my faith, in my nutrition, my strength, like, all of that plays a factor. If I can't pick up Malachi and Gabriel in an emergency situation to get them out of harm or anything like that, like, then what good am I? How good of a dad am I, right? thinking about all of the people, you know, in our country that have died just over time, either first responders or whatever, trying to keep us safe. You know, it's my job as a man, as the leader of our household, to be able to protect and provide for you guys. Can't do that if I'm dead. I also think about, like, Jesus carrying the cross. I mean, you have to be a incredibly strong man to be able to do that. And so that's my goal. I want to be that. I want to be able to do whatever I need to do physically, whatever is called upon for me to do. I need to be able to do that, and that's kind of the driving factor for me. And so, yeah, that's why I train as hard as I do, and that's why I've gotten my addiction under control. You know, thanks to you and God, man, it's really the only thing that I can say about that.
How is your mindset in training different now than when you started? You know, obviously the Festus Games, you wanted to go to the games.
Yeah, I mean, it's a completely different mindset. You know, back then I wanted to be you know, one of the fittest on earth. I wanted to make it to the games or regionals and then the games. That was my goal at the time. And so when you're growing up, you know, a decade ago in CrossFit, it didn't matter what you did. Didn't matter the wear and tear on your body. It was like, you get it done. It's full send or nothing. Everything had to be RX, regardless of form, really. And so and if not, you were shamed. You know, it's like, hey, you didn't do RX. Like, what a little bitch. Like, and that's just how it was. Now I think we've, as a sport and as a community, I think we've grown a lot. But I think there's still probably some of that out there. But yeah, now it's about moving well and living to lift another day, as Tom says.
Yeah.
You know, that's exactly what it is. Like, I'm in it for longevity. I want to be able to play with Malachi's kids and Gabriel's kids. And I want to be that grandpa that can do a bunch of stuff by himself. Like, I don't need help. Like, I can carry my own wood and logs and all that stuff at my house and my homestead and all that. And so, can't do that if you're fat and out of shape. Can't protect you guys if you're fat.
Sickly.
Yeah, if I'm sick and out of shape. Like, can't do that if I die from a heart attack or, you know.
I think that was one of the things for me is as he was kind of eating his feelings, he started snoring more, which, of course, I'm such a light sleeper, would keep me awake. And that was just something noticeably different. And I just had this, I think either right after or right before Gabriel turned 3, my mom, it was either when she was flying into town or flying out of town. Or maybe it was in July before his birthday. But anyway, sometime this summer, and it was just like I had this anxiety attack that, like, my mom was going to die in a plane crash and that Nick was going to die and I was going to be left to do, like, all of the things by myself. And I was just like, I cannot do this. Like, I don't want to do this. And I think that was the turning point. This is normal, guys.
Yeah, I mean, that was definitely part of it. I mean, when we had that conversation, like, it was a aha moment for sure. And again, like, you actually having a fear, not just like this passing comment, but to actually be afraid for my health was definitely a wake-up moment.
I don't know if I was afraid for his health or just afraid that I was going to have to do it all by myself. Just kidding.
I mean, either way, they kind of go hand in hand. So, yeah. But, yeah, different mindset now. So it's good.
It's definitely, like, when I went through a lot of the, like, when his mom passed away, working out for me was a way to kind of turn it off, and his was the opposite.
Yeah, for sure.
So
I couldn't get through a workout without getting emotional. I remember doing some sort of a clean workout, and we were in here, it was just you and me.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I did it wrong, and I caught my body in a weird.
You caught your privates.
Yeah. And I remember just dropping it and collapsing on the floor crying.
Yeah.
I just sat there hysterical for 10 or 20 minutes probably.
Yeah.
Just, head down in between my knees, like sitting on the floor crying, puddle of tears on the mats, like. And so I basically didn't work out for, I don't know, a month, 6 weeks, something like that. And then when I started,
lack of trying.
And then when I started getting back moving again, I still hadn't dealt with really the feelings and stuff. So that's when all the kind of anger came out, and started taking it out on even some of our members. She came to me and said, the members, somebody specifically, she wouldn't tell me who it was, but she was like, somebody came to me and said that, you're not being very nice, and that I had taken it out. I was like, well, okay, like I was pushing them too hard. And I think part of that was knowing that I had the knowledge and knowing that we had done everything possible to facilitate my mom being healthier, and she didn't take us up on it. She didn't do it. Like, she could have. What happened to her, I think, was preventable. And I don't want that. I love our members. I don't want that. And the competitive nature of me wants to push people, wants them to push for themselves. And some of them don't. And it's hard for me to understand that, where they just come in and work out. They don't want to get better. They don't want to push themselves. All they want to do is look good naked and eat whatever they want to eat. I don't. I just.
That's a good goal.
It's fair. Like, yeah, but I don't know. It's just, for me, like, I don't want to just look good. I want to get better over time. And so it's just hard for me to comprehend that, and it's something that I have to work on as a person and as a coach, and give grace. And
just a little backstory with that. We went to bed one Sunday night in November of last year, 2023, and woke up the next morning with paramedics in our house working on his mom. She had collapsed around 4:30 in the morning.
Yeah, I coached the 5:30 a.m. class on Mondays, and when I had gotten up, my alarm goes off at 4:30, so I woke up at 4:30 and walked out of my bedroom door to a cop standing outside my door, like, in my face. It kind of caught me off guard. I was like, whoa, what's up? Like, what's going on? And then, he asked me I think who I was, and I just kind of pushed past him because I knew there was a cop there. There was something going on. And so I ran out into the living room, and there was a handful of paramedics doing CPR on my mom. And my Nana completely shattered and panicked and yeah, and so
it was completely unexpected, completely
sudden.
Yeah.
She never woke up.
Yeah. So December 1st will technically be 1 year.
Yeah.
So it's been a year, you guys. A lot of learning and growing for both of us.
God's got a plan though. The growing and stuff. It's been a hard year, but it's also been a very blessed year. It's nice to find our tribe and to feel as loved and blessed as we do, for sure.
Is there anything else you want to add?
I don't think so.
Do you want to re-propose to me? And tell me what you said the first time.
No.
I was heavily medicated when he proposed. Not the only time he proposed to me.
Yes. That's fair. She was.
And we have a video of it, but it was all yours football.
Yeah. Sorry, that was my bad for not planning that better. So, I didn't have a microphone. I wasn't all fancy and had microphones back then. We'll work on it. Maybe I'll re-propose at like our 10-year anniversary or something.
Well, now you know a little bit more about Nick and I, our journey, where we've come from, where we're going. It's still always a work in progress, I think.
For sure.
Figuring it out.
Always will be. We're imperfect humans.
The fun part, with hormones changing every 7 years. Did you know that? They do. And especially with women. So the next one will be nutrition.
I think so, yeah.
More deep dive into nutrition and
yeah,
all that fun stuff.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions about anything or any particular subject you want us to talk about, make sure you comment that below.
Give me good fun topics that I won't cry at. I cry at the good things too.
If you, if you like this, consider giving us a like and subscribe. And would help out a lot. And we'll see you guys in the next one. Stay fit, stay safe.